Hello, BookTube, from both of us. And welcome to March Mystery Madness, a venerable BookTube event that is kicking off, I think, its 10th year this year, where we read murder mysteries of all types and kinds. This was made by Elizabeth at Lizzie Faye Loves Books and Troy Towell, and there's a whole bunch of co-hosts. I'm not a co-host this year, but I could not be more enthused about this event. It's one of my favorite BookTube events because reading murder mysteries is one of my favorite things to do. Years and years ago, I had a very good friend who read nothing else. That's all he read was murder mysteries, and he chewed them down. He didn't pick them out and savor them. He just went through them like candy. Went through a lot of candy too. But at the time, I adopted what I imagine is the normal snobby reaction to mysteries. That, oh, it's a whodunit. Oh, was it the old maid in the parlor? Oh, are you falling for the wrong clue? And then I had a great falling off of all kinds of snobbery. That's when I embraced romance novels. That's also when I fully embraced murder mysteries, because not only does it take art to do anything entertaining, I couldn't help but notice, being in the critical world, that most of the people who were poo-pooing entertaining things, whether it was romance or bug-eyed alien science fiction novels or murder mysteries, could not make anything entertaining if their life depended on it, including their own extremely tedious children. Not only that, but also I started off with the entrance card that most recovering snobs give, which is, well, it's a great palate cleanser. And if you use that to wean yourself off snobbery, so much the better. More power to you. It's a fine way to wean yourself off snobbery. Of course, eventually, if you do that enough, you realize, well, no, this isn't a palate cleanser. I'm just enjoying it on my own. I don't care what came before it or after it. It's not cleansing. It's not cleansing anything. I'm just being. What are you doing? Were you just lurking back there? What are you doing, baby? Huh? This event is older than you are. Now, do you want to get down and stop hogging the camera? Do you want to come down here? There you go. Oh, little Frida yoga. Don't those hindquarters look neatly trimmed? There we go. Yay. Okay, we're going to go through this melodrama in every video. She gets over there, and then she realizes I'm not over there. Then she decides to come back over here. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This week, we're going to concentrate. We're going to bear down. All right. So, I am now fully on board with murder mysteries. I have been for a long, long time. I love them. And so I love March Mystery Madness, where the goal really, I mean, there are all kinds. Elizabeth has done this up the right way, so there's all kinds of bells and whistles. If you want to fully participate in March Mystery Madness, there are plenty of ways to do that. Plenty of themes, plenty of prompts, all that sort of stuff. But really, the goal is to read a murder mystery. And I would say, as a prophet against snobbery, as I have now become, that it should also be to read your first mystery, to introduce yourself to the mystery genre if you don't read it already. You'll really like it, I think. If you get rid of the snobbery that I had, you'll really like it. And along those lines, every time March Mystery Madness starts, we read the rules. We read the rules. Because believe it or not, over the years, over the 100 years or so, writers have come up with rules for mystery novels. Of course, that's dumb, because you can't do that. It's fiction. So you can break any rule you want. And as I've often said, I read these rules, these 10 commandments out every single year. And every single year I say that for every one of them, there is an example, or at least one, of a great mystery novel that just ignores this rule, that just contradicts it. But rules are fun to talk about anyway. It's fun to think about them in terms of what you're going to read in the course of the month. The rules were made 100 years ago by Monsignor Ronald Knox, who was he was a stuffed shirt. He was pretentiosaurus. He was stiff and sclerotic. But he was a diehard reader of mysteries and a diehard thinker about them in a way that you would later get from other starchy intellectuals, like, for instance, Auden, the poet Auden, who also did a couple of really good pieces on what it is that we're reading when we read a murder mystery and why we are. And Ronald Knox wrote out 10 rules, a Decalogue for the detective story. I thought we'd go over them again this year, as we do every year, and see what you make of them. Just see what you think about them. Those of you who've been with me for many March Mystery Madnesses, you don't need to watch this video. I will repeat a lot of the same questions. I'm sure I will. Those of you who have not, this might be your first time encountering this. So let's see what rule number 1 is. Commandment number 1 is, the criminal must be someone mentioned in the early part of the story, but must not be anyone whose thoughts the reader has been allowed to follow. That's 2 parts. There are 2 parts to that commandment. One is that you can't spring the murderer on us at the last in the last chapter. And 2 is that you can't show us the murderer's thoughts, or you will ruin the whodunit part of the whodunit. I would argue here, and I'm sure that Monsignor Knox would agree, that better not to show us anyone's thoughts. No offense to Elizabeth George, but better not to show us anyone's thoughts, so that you don't give the game away. Because if you show the thoughts of someone and they aren't the murderer, well, then you've eliminated one suspect, and what's the fun in that? But anyway, so the main part of this that's always stressed whenever anyone looks at this, which no one does anymore, this is 100 years old, is you can't spring the murderer on us out of the blue. It's got to be someone that's at least been mentioned. I would argue they should be part of the cast of characters. And then we'll go on to commandment number 2. He gives them Roman numerals. All supernatural or preternatural agencies are ruled out as a matter of course. No ghosts need apply, to quote Sherlock Holmes. This is absolutely fundamental. Of course, you'll be thinking right now of murder mystery series that you really, really like that ignore this rule. There are plenty, including a couple that ran for 20, 30 books and were fan favorites. I like it myself. This means that if someone dies in a locked room, if someone dies, on a sailing vessel or something or other, it can't be because they were willed to do so. There might be the appurtenances of, I don't know even what you would call it, aboriginal magic of some kind, like in Sign of the Four, but it can't be real. It can't end up being real. It has to have a real world material causes, like in Sign of the Four. So I would agree with this completely, and no offense at all to the series that are coming to your mind. I don't like the supernatural isn't real. There is no supernatural element to existence. I don't want to start an argument in the middle of a Marsh Mystery Magnus video, but if you believe in the supernatural, fine, then you believe in the supernatural. But you believe in something that has absolutely no material basis, no proof at all. No element of the supernatural exists. So why have it in a murder mystery when we have a genre for that? But anyway, let's move on to rule number 3. Not more than one secret room or passage is allowable. Again, I myself have read murder mysteries just in the time that I've been on BookTube. I have read murder mysteries that completely ignore this rule very effectively. But I see where it comes from. A secret room or a secret passageway is a gimmick. I don't think it's as well used now. A lot of the stuff that Monsignor Knox talks about is not. They aren't really staples of the genre anymore. The genre has evolved a little and doesn't use secret rooms and secret passages anymore. But if you're going to use such a thing, yeah, it can't be that there's a secret room in the house and that's where the killer is hiding, or that's where the falsely accused suspect is hiding. But there's another secret room with someone else in it. Although, again, I have read stories that did that. The exact thing, that doubled up on the secret rooms to effect. But anyway, commandment number 4 is no hitherto undiscovered poisons may be used, nor any appliance which will need a long scientific explanation at the end. I've already mentioned in the course of this video a rather famous murder mystery that largely dispenses with this rule, but you see where it comes from. It comes from the same place as a lot of these other commandments. What Monsignor Knox is trying to do is caution mystery writers against dirty pool. The whole point of a whodunit, in the classical sense of the writing, is that you should have the material in front of you to solve the mystery yourself. The goal of a murder mystery writer in the old classical sense should not be to create an unsolvable problem. It should be to create a solvable problem, put the solution in front of you in little scattered bits, and then distract you so that you don't get the solution until they tell it to you. It's an extremely intricate kind of writing. That was one of the things that woke me up to snobbery against it, is that it's not easy to do. Not easy to do well at all. But that's what this commandment is about. You can't have someone walking around in complete isolation from humanity for 3 years and then die, and then reveal at the end that it was a poison that took 3 years to take effect, or a scientific gimmick along the same lines, that you've got some sort of extremely weird voltage meter in your mattress that's slowly killing someone. You can't do that because that's dirty pool. It's basically the same thing as the commandment against the supernatural. They merge in the same thing thanks to Arthur C. Clarke's famous declaration that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. That's what the Monsignor is working against here. Don't do that sort of thing. Don't pull the rug out from your reader with stuff they couldn't possibly have guessed. Okay. Commandment number 5, I always have to offer a slight caution. My cautions have gotten less emphatic over the years because I've developed a community here. I've developed a group where we're a group here. There are newcomers all the time to this channel, but most people who are here understand we're all adults, and you all know where I stand on the subject of performative outrage. I can't stand it. I hate it. I hate the people who do it. And you all sort of get that now. So years ago, I had people in the comments section literally fly off the handle if I committed the mortal sin of referring to someone who was morbidly overweight as fat. I wasn't allowed to use that word, and not only was I not allowed, but it made them apoplectic with rage. Fortunately, the heyday of that kind of performative virtue signaling is now over. And also, it died on this channel long before its heyday was over. So I don't think I need to emphasize commandment number 5 quite as strongly. You're all going to know what I mean. You're also going to know what the Monsignor meant. Whether he meant it or not, whether he had a racist bone in his body or not, you're still going to know what he meant. But commandment number 5 is no Chinaman must figure in the story. And basically, that might sound very, of course, we don't call Chinese people China people anymore, but that might sound bigoted, but it actually is an extension of the commandment against the supernatural and against basically supernatural science or supernatural biochemistry. It's the same thing, because in 1929, in the 1920s, when Monsignor Knox was writing this, potboilers, thrillers, and pulp fiction were loaded with the inscrutable Chinaman who has inscrutable ways and may have odd mystic appurtenances and maybe odd mystic insights into things. And it wasn't only Chinamen who were misused in that way in the pulp fiction of the day, but the misuse is the same. I'm introducing an element that you could not possibly, you the reader, could not possibly guess, anticipate, or gauge on your own. I'm introducing a figure who could do anything, basically a wizard, and that's dirty pool. That's not fair to the reader. That's what this commandment means. You already know that. So let's just move on. It's an unfortunate way to phrase it. I wish that the Monsignor had said something like "no mysterious stranger must figure in the story" or something like that. But we'll move on to commandment number 6. No accident must ever help the detective, nor must he ever have an unaccountable intuition which proves to be right. And here a lot of you are thinking about treasured murder mysteries that you have read or watched, where that moment of the detective's intuition that proves to be right is not only present in the story and works really well, but is your favorite moment of the story. The aha moment is what we've come to call it. And when it's done well, it's done marvelously well. It sends a shiver through me, same as you. Monsignor will have none of it. And if you disagree, he'll see you in the confessional. But let's see what he has to say. That is perhaps too strongly stated. It is legitimate for the detective to have an inspiration, which he afterwards verifies, before he acts on them, by genuine investigation. And again, he will naturally have moments of clear vision in which the bearings of the observations hitherto made will become suddenly evident to him. But he must not be allowed, for example, to look for the lost will in the works of the grandfather clock because an unaccountable instinct tells him that is the right place to search. He must not look there because he realizes that is where he would have hidden it himself if he had been the criminal's place. And in general, it should be observed that every detail of his thought process, not merely the main outline of it, should be consciously audited when the explanation comes along at the end. So Knox is agreeing that he's not explicitly ruling out intuition on the part of a detective, but it can't just be that out of the blue. It can't be out of nowhere. There's got to be a tether to it. The way that it's done in modern mystery novels actually does adhere to this commandment, because always there is a tether. It's never that the detective is thinking, it was the Sunday ferry. No, they might not understand the chain of connections themselves when they're thinking it, but eventually the chain of connections is made clear. Commandment number 7 is a big one. I could not agree with it more. The detective must not himself commit the crime. This applies only where the author personally vouches for the statement that the detective is a detective. A criminal may legitimately dress up as a detective, as in The Secret of Chimneys, and delude the other actors in the story with forged references. But the detective himself, Inspector Appleby, cannot be revealed at the end of the story to have committed the crime. I agree. And I think that is the ultimate dirty pool. Then commandment number 8, the detective must not light on any clues which are not instantly produced for the inspection of the reader. And he gives a perfect example. I can't say it any better than the Monsignor does, so we'll just read his description. Any writer can make a mystery by telling us that at this point the great picklock Hole suddenly bent down and picked up from the ground an object which he refused to let his friends see. He whispers, "Ha!" and his face grows grave. All that is illegitimate mystery-making. The skill of the detective author consists in being able to produce his clues and flourish them defiantly in our faces. There, he says, what do you make of that? And we make nothing. That is true. That is the classic old murder mystery where everything is produced for the inspection of the reader. This example of what's the name again? Picklock Holes. That's the perfect thing that you want to avoid if you can. It's a bad, woolly gimmick, although, again, I am sure that you have read murder mysteries and really like them, where a detective opens the drawer of a desk or picks up something from, a library shelf, and we're told that they do it, but we're not told why or what it is. And it works. Any good mystery writer, with almost no exceptions, that I would stick with rule number 7. No, the detective must not himself commit the crime. But other than that, I would say any good mystery author can skirt these rules to effect if they really want to. I prefer it if they don't, but this is a perfect case of loading the dice, of playing dirty pool. Monsignor Knox is saying the detective is your stand-in. He's also trying to figure out who done it. And if the writer gives him an advantage without giving it to you, well, the writer is telling you, just sit and read patiently and pay me your 2 pence and I will solve the mystery for you. That's no fun. You want to have all the information that the detective has. Let's move on to rule number 9. The stupid friend of the detective, the Watson, must not conceal any thoughts which pass through his mind. His intelligence must be slightly, but very slightly, below that of the average reader. And the Monsignor expands. This is a rule of perfection. It is not the essence of a detective story to have a Watson at all. But if he does exist, he exists for the purpose of letting the reader have a sparring partner, as it were, against whom he can pit his brains. I have been a fool, he says to himself as he puts the book down, but at least I wasn't so doddering a fool as poor old Watson. Now here I want to, as always when I read this Decalogue, I want to stick up for Dr. John Watson. It's not just Lauren Esselman. And me. It's lots of other people. Watson is no dummy. He's not the detective's stupid friend. But in the Holmes stories, he serves a vital role along those lines, because in the Holmes stories, the detective is virtually superhuman. So Watson doesn't have to be slightly less intelligent than the average reader. He can, as I believe he is, be slightly more intelligent than the average reader. It doesn't matter. Holmes is still on another planet. So it works. It works to have that touchstone. And almost every, Knox says that it isn't necessary for a detective story to have, what would we even call it? A companion, a foil, a Watson. Almost all the good ones do. And to benefit. I'm not saying that it's a weakness. They're really good. I'm sure you're thinking of a million pairings. The pairing has become a crucial thing. Almost. And then finally, commandment number 10, to kick off March Mystery Madness. Twin brothers, and doubles generally, must not appear unless we have been duly prepared for them. And again, you can see this is the Monsignor trying to caution mystery writers against playing dirty pool. An identical twin revealed at the end. He's saying you can have a twin or a mystery double of some kind, but we have to know about them ahead of time. You can't spring them at the end any more than you can a weird poison that takes 3 years to take effect, or a weird piece of technology, or a mysterious MacGuffin pulled out of the long sleeve of a Chinaman, or anything like that. You can't pull that sort of stuff. It all has to be presented to the reader. The writing of a murder mystery should be a test of your ingenuity as a writer, not your power as a writer. But what does the Monsignor have to say? The dodge is too easy, and the supposition too improbable. I would add as a writer that no criminal should be credited with exceptional powers of disguise unless we have had fair warning that he or she was accustomed to making up for the stage. Okay, well, I would agree with that. And there you go. We are once again consulting The Art of the Mystery Story. A great old volume. I've read through this a million times, not just Monsignor Knox, but lots of other things in here. I just love it. And once again, we have laid out the 10 Commandments of Murder Mysteries. And once again, I want to do a whole bunch of things at the end of my every March Mystery Madness introductory video. First, I want to encourage you to read a murder mystery in March, even if they're not your cup of tea. And I would be happy to make recommendations. If you watch, there's a ton of March Mystery videos that are coming down the line in March. You'll find plenty of recommendations in them too. Something will suit you. I feel certain of that. But two, I want to know, I've been saying all along in this video that we all know of murder mystery readers know of exceptions to almost all of these things. I always add the troublemaking example for that Chinaman thing. I can't get away from that because it's the only thing in this Decalogue that's indefensible in the 21st century. I have to issue my own rider about it. That even if the Monsignor was racist and maybe he had some background atmospheric racism towards Chinese people or Asians just in general, maybe he did. Whether he did or not, the rule is still a good one. You don't want a figure of, obdurate mystery in your mystery. One mystery at a time. You don't want to add a figure who could be anything. The killer, the solution to any crime, have mysterious knowledge born from, the whether it's the East or the darkest Africa was another big one at this time, or wherever. But every time I read that rule, I think of the Judge D mysteries. But anyway, I want to know what you think of these rules. Not only do you agree with them, but also would you add to them? Are there any rules for murder mysteries that you would add to here? Things that the murder mysteries that you read do maybe that you hate? I'd love to hear it. Tell me all about it. We are off to the races for yet another March Mystery Madness. How much fun. So in addition to that, of course, tell me what you're reading for March. Are you reading any murder mysteries? And if so, are you going to let March Mystery Madness induce you to read a murder mystery for the first time? How thrilling would that be? Oh, my. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.